Hey guys, tonight we wander into the kind of place you probably shouldn't. Picture yourself ducking under a dripping stalactite, the cavern air heavy with mineral dampness and something faintly sweet, like a kettle just beginning to sing. Your boots scuff stone, echoing off walls that glow with faint streaks of quartz. You're expecting treasure, maybe piles of coins so bright they blind you, or jewels so large they'd choke a banker. But no, what you see instead are rows upon rows of teacups, saucers, teapots, sugar bowls, and milk pitchers, stacked precariously like a mad collector's dream. The shelves aren't wooden or carved, they're part of the cavern itself, stone lips and alcoves chiseled smooth by claw. The cups gleam in soft hues, pale celadon, worn blue willow, cracked cream porcelain. It's beautiful and completely wrong. You probably won't survive this, or any situation where you end up inside a dragon's personal pantry of porcelain curiosities. But hey, at least you go down impressed. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your current location and local time in the comments. I always like knowing who else is wandering into strange places with me. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The cavern yawns deeper, and the glow shifts to amber, a heat hum under your skin reminding you that yes, you are absolutely in a dragon's lair. The air grows warmer the farther you go, but the thing that unsettles you isn't the heat, it's the silence. Gold clinks, gems glitter. Teacups? They just wait, patient, fragile, not making a sound. Well, mostly. As you brush your hand over a saucer, something like the tiniest sigh passes through the cavern. The sound is so faint, you almost dismiss it as your own imagination. Then another follows, from a cup with a thin crack running along its side. The sighs turn to whispers, indistinct at first, like neighbors arguing behind paper walls. Your fingers itch, your nerves crawl. These aren't just cups, they're keeping something. A dragon's shadow rolls across the stone wall, huge and deliberate, as if the owner of this bizarre crockery museum is circling back. The air tightens in your chest as you realize you're trespassing among porcelain more sacred than any pile of coins could ever be. And suddenly, the little domestic details leap out. A sugar spoon resting across a chipped bowl, a teaspoon wedged into a spout, tea stains etched permanently into cracked glaze. They aren't displays, they're relics. You step carefully, and the cavern widens into a gallery, shelves climbing higher than any ladder could reach. Each cubby carved into the stone is home to a set, some missing pieces, some intact, some so fine you think they belonged in a museum case. There are floral patterns, geometric motifs, gilt handles worn where hands once touched. The air carries faint notes of bergamot, smoke, jasmine, as though every steeping ever poured here left behind its ghost. You want to laugh at the absurdity, because come on, dragons hoarding teacups? That's like a giant grizzly stockpiling dollhouse furniture. But your chuckle dies quick. Something about the way the porcelain shimmers in firelight, the way the cracks in each piece look less like accidents and more like deliberate inscriptions, makes your stomach dip. And then you see it, a towering stack of kettles, balanced impossibly high in the corner. They're blackened with soot, yet polished to a shine where claws must have touched them lovingly. One, with a dent on its side, looks ordinary enough to have sat on your grandmother's stove. That, weirdly, is the most unnerving part. Because here's the thing, you're not in a cavern of wealth. You're in a memory vault. Each item looks used, lived with, loved. A dragon's hoard is supposed to be greed made visible, but this feels more like longing given shape. Your ears catch another whisper, clearer this time. Don't spill. You jerk your hand back from a blue cup, painted with tiny cranes. Its glaze hums faintly, almost vibrating against the stone. There's motion above, an enormous claw sliding a teapot onto a higher shelf. The dragon finally steps into view, massive scales shifting like living bronze, horns catching the faint light. Its eyes, molten and bright, don't fix on you yet. Instead, they linger on the porcelain with the focus of a librarian shelving priceless manuscripts. It exhales, and steam curls from its nostrils, smelling not of sulfur, but of steeped leaves. Green tea, sharp and grassy. You nearly choke on the absurdity. It mutters to itself in a voice like shifting gravel, carefully adjusting the handle of a teacup so it faces just so. There's reverence in every movement, claws deadly enough to shear through armor, yet handling the porcelain with feather-like care. You freeze. Every instinct screams at you to bolt, but then you catch yourself wondering what the punishment would even be for stealing from such a hoard. Being roasted alive, sure, but maybe something worse. Maybe being trapped forever in one of these cups, your sighs just another whisper woven into the collection. And here's the uncomfortable truth sinking in. These aren't objects the dragon values for resale. They're part of something older, something you've just stepped into without invitation. The cavern seems to hold its breath, waiting to see what you'll do next.
The cavern holds that breath as you inch deeper, careful not to let your boots scrape. The dragon has vanished into the upper shadows, but its presence lingers in the glowing embers along the walls. You risk a glance back at the blue crane cup you almost touched. It's quiet now, though the glaze seems to throb faintly, like something waiting to speak again if you dare listen. You take another step, and that's when the chorus begins. The shelves around you stir. It isn't a rattling, not the clink of porcelain you'd expect if everything was shifting dangerously on the verge of collapse. No, this is subtler, like air moving through tiny hollow throats. A saucer exhales a sigh, a teapot hums low, and a collection of mismatched cups murmur to one another. At first, you can't make sense of the words. They overlap, rise and fall, 100 forgotten conversations tangled together. Then, clear as a bell, a single cracked teacup whispers directly to you. "Do mind your step." You freeze. The voice is brittle, papery, but it carries with it the weight of countless evenings. Tea poured into the same cup again and again until the glaze itself remembered the sound. And you realize, with a chill that creeps along your spine, that every vessel here carries something more than just a pattern. They carry imprints, memories, fragments of their old owners' voices pressed deep into clay and porcelain until even death couldn't scrub them clean. You lean closer to a chipped saucer patterned with ivy. The moment your fingers hover over its surface, the faintest ripple of sound trickles out. Laughter, distant and warm, like someone once chuckled at a joke told across the table. Your skin prickles. You pull back before it can finish. The shelves are alive with whispers now. You strain to catch words, but they tumble over one another like too many people at a dinner party. Snatches escape the crowd. The kettle's boiling. Not enough sugar. Don't let him see. That last one makes you blink. Who's him? You glance up into the shadows, half expecting the dragon to be watching. The cavern seems to smile with its silence. You take another step, brushing past a shelf where cups are stacked in towers taller than you. One of them, fine bone china, handle missing, whimpers softly as though in pain. You flinch, and the absurd thought strikes you. What if each crack is a mouth? What if the chips and fractures are how they speak? The dragon's logic begins to dawn on you. Forget gold, forget jewels. Those are just shiny. These hold the voices of the dead. A sudden clang echoes from deeper in the cavern, startling every whisper into silence. It's the unmistakable clink of claw against cup. Then, low and rumbling, the dragon's voice drifts across the shelves. Still restless, always restless. You crouch instinctively, heart hammering, but the words don't seem aimed at you. The dragon is speaking to the cups, talking to them as though they're children, or maybe as though it's a caretaker in charge of calming rowdy guests. It shuffles closer, and in the fireglow you see its tail sweeping gently, careful not to disturb a precarious stack. The sight is so ridiculous you almost snort. Imagine a mountain-sized lizard tiptoeing like a butler in a china shop. But then, one golden eye swivels down, pinning you in a molten gaze. The cavern holds its breath again. You expect fury, fire, death. Instead, the dragon simply says, in a voice like rust sliding over stone, "Do you hear them too?" You don't answer, which honestly feels like the only correct move when a dragon asks you a question. But the silence betrays you. The dragon tilts its massive head, waiting, the corners of its maw twitching as though it almost finds your presence amusing. It continues, almost to itself. They never stop. Every cup, every pot, 1,000 households, 1,000 afternoons. I tried gold once. Coins are mute. Jewels are dumb. But these... It gestures with a claw so delicately you swear it's practiced this motion for centuries. These speak. The dragon lowers its head, nostrils flaring. The steam it exhales smells faintly floral, as if a kettle has just been poured. "Tell me," it says, "what did you hear?" And just like that, you're cornered. Not by fire, not by brute force, but by expectation. The shelves around you shift again, porcelain humming under the weight of voices desperate to be acknowledged. It's like standing in a crowd where everyone knows your name, but you don't know theirs. You try to swallow, throat dry like old leaves. I heard someone laugh. You manage, the words spilling out because silence feels more dangerous. The dragon's eye narrows, then brightens, molten flecks dancing. It seems pleased. "Good," it rumbles. "Laughter lingers best, stronger than grief, stronger than anger, but you'll hear the others soon enough." It pulls back, turning its attention away as if your presence is already secondary. That's somehow more insulting than terrifying. The dragon carefully rearranges a row of cracked teapots, humming to itself, a tune low and vibrating, almost like the rumble of boiling water. You realize that the whispers aren't random at all. They're a choir, fragmented and chaotic, but unified under the dragon's care. And you, unwanted, fragile, breathing too loudly, you're standing in the middle of the rehearsal.
The dragon's hum rattles your ribs like a kettle just shy of boiling. The porcelain voices fall in line, not perfectly, but close enough that the cavern begins to vibrate with a strange, fragile harmony. You stand very still, because the absurd truth has already sunk in. You are surrounded by haunted dishware, and your host is a lizard the size of a cathedral who thinks that's perfectly normal. Your eyes roam the shelves again. Now that you know what you're listening for, the sounds sharpen. A faded teapot at your elbow sighs like an old man settling into a chair.
Two matching cups chatter faintly, repeating a phrase you can't quite catch, though you think it's something about more hot water. The entire hoard is alive, and each fragment feels like a thread woven into some impossible tapestry of memory. The dragon lowers its head again, smoke curling from its nostrils. "Do you know," it says, voice deep and dry, "why fire dwells in us?" You shake your head before realizing the question isn't rhetorical. The dragon's molten eyes flicker with amusement. "It wasn't always so," it rumbles. "Before fire, before scales hardened and wings carried us above storms, we were softer things, hollow-boned, shivering in wind, prey." It pads forward, claws whispering across stone, and gestures with one talon toward a display, an ancient squat clay kettle, blackened with soot but gleaming like it was polished yesterday. It began with a drink. You almost laugh, because what, dragons got their legendary fire breath from tea? But you bite it back. The dragon's gaze warns you that sarcasm is probably a one-way ticket to cremation. "Leaves steeped in spring water and boiled on rock. Our ancestors gathered in trembling circles, clutching clay cups too hot for their paws. They drank and they burned." The cavern seems to lean closer. The whispers of porcelain swell, echoing the dragon's words. "They burned, they burned." "Not with pain," the dragon corrects, catching the tone. "With awakening. The first sip set kindling to their veins. Breath thickened with steam. Sparks cracked across their tongues. They coughed, and flame came out." Your jaw nearly drops. "You're telling me dragons got fire breath from tea?" The dragon tilts its head, expression unreadable. Then, surprisingly, it chuckles, a sound like rocks tumbling into a canyon. "Mortals always expect grander things, a god's blessing, a lightning strike. But the truth is smaller, always smaller. A handful of leaves and water boiled long enough." The shelves shiver as though in agreement. You catch another fragment from a cracked saucer. "Too strong, too strong." The dragon turns back to the soot-blackened kettle. "This was the first, the beginning of fire, and the reason we still steep, still hoard, still listen. Without cups, without leaves, we are only lizards." The word lizards drips with contempt, as though it's the foulest insult imaginable. You wisely decide not to comment. The dragon exhales, steam curling like ribbon. "Remember this," it says, softly, almost like a benediction. "We burn because we drank." The dragon's final words hang heavy in the air. "We burn because we drank." You feel the heat coiled tighter around you, not the dry scorching of a fire pit, but the damp, rising warmth of a kettle just at rolling boil. The shelves hum, porcelain voices weaving into a steady chant that seems to echo those words over and over. You follow the dragon's gaze toward a shelf set apart from the rest. The stone alcove curves like a shrine, cradling a single teapot that gleams in its own light. It isn't grand in size, no bigger than something you'd see on a kitchen table, but every inch of it looks alive. Silver filigree curls across the surface in swirls that catch the cavern's glow. Its spout is etched with crescent moons, and the lid bears a handle shaped like a star. Even from a distance, you feel something tugging at your chest, like a soft hook pulling you closer. The dragon lowers its massive head, steam hissing from its nostrils in reverence. "The silver pourer," it murmurs. "Do you see it?" You nod, because even if you wanted to play dumb, your eyes won't let you. The teapot is mesmerizing, radiant without being gaudy, as if moonlight itself pooled in its curves. "It is older than fire," the dragon continues, its voice hushed now like a worshipper whispering in a temple. "Older than scales, older even than us. When the first flames rose from our throat, we thought ourselves gods, but we learned quickly that fire burns as easily as it warms." The porcelain whispers swell, some frantic, some mournful, all circling around the shrine. You can almost make out the words, balance, bargain, moonlight. The dragon tilts its head toward you. "You see, we would have destroyed the world. Our fire would have scorched riverbeds to dust, boiled oceans dry, blackened skies with endless smoke. But the moon watched, and she pitied us." You blink. "The moon?" The dragon's molten eye narrows, as if unimpressed with your disbelief. "Do you think she is only a rock, only light reflected? No, she is spirit, witness, keeper of tides and breath." Its tone sharpens. "Mortals forget because it is convenient. We cannot afford to." You bite your tongue. You're not about to argue celestial philosophy with a creature that could toast you into charcoal. The dragon shifts, its body blocking most of the cavern's light as it bows low to the silver pourer. "It offered us mercy, a pact." Its tail flicks against the stone, stirring dust into the air. "One vessel, shaped in her image to bind our flame. We would pour through it, steep within it, and in return our fire would be tempered. Not chaos, not destruction. Heat with purpose." The dragon's voice softens, almost breaking. "Without her gift, there would be no dragons, only ash." The whispers around you rise again, swirling together until they form something almost like a single sentence. "She saved us. She bound us. She still watches." You step closer without meaning to. The silver pourer shines brighter the nearer you are, and though the cavern air is heavy with heat, the space around it feels cool, like standing outside on a clear light. You half expect to see your reflection in its polished surface, but instead the silver shimmers with ripples of shifting images. A moon over black water, dragons crouched in circles, steam rising in great plumes. The dragon lowers its voice further. "That was the bargain with moonlight. We steep, always steep. We hoard the vessels that remember. She takes our chaos and makes it steady." Your brain scrambles for something clever to say, but all that comes out is, "So dragons basically have to keep a cosmic tea party going forever?" The dragon stares at you, long enough that your skin prickles with sweat, and you wonder if this is the moment you die for being a smartass. Then, with a sound halfway between a sigh and a chuckle, it mutters, "Mortals reduce everything to jokes. But yes, a tea party, if you must." The cavern almost shakes with the voices, an overlapping chorus of laughter, sorrow, warnings, chatter, all echoing through the porcelain. For a heartbeat, it feels like you're standing inside 1,000 kitchens at once, all lit by the same silver moon. You glance at the silver pourer again. "And that's why you hoard them? Tea sets? They remind you of the pact." The dragon nods slowly. "They are vessels of memory, each cup a promise, each pot a ward. We guard them as you guard your bloodlines. To lose them would be to forget." There's something solemn in its voice that you hadn't expected. A dragon's hoard, yes, but not greed, not wealth, it's survival. worship, memory. You take a shaky breath, trying to absorb it all. The cavern hums around you, the voices whispering moonlight bargains, ancient sips, silver pacts. And through it all, the silver pourer gleams brighter, as though the moon herself is leaning in to listen.
The silver pourer still glimmers in its alcove, but the dragon has turned away from it now, lumbering deeper into the cavern. You follow, not because you're brave, but because standing alone beside a possibly sentient moon teapot feels even worse. The shelves stretch further than you realized, climbing into darkness, disappearing into shadow where only the faintest porcelain glints flicker. The dragon moves with astonishing delicacy. Each claw, sharp enough to split stone, touches the ground as though it were glass. You almost laugh, the old cliché about a bull in a china shop flashing in your mind. But here's a twist. The bull is aware, hyper-aware, of every fragile object around it. The bull has etiquette. The bull is basically your grandmother's careful hand reaching for her favorite cup, multiplied by about 10,000 pounds of scale and fire. The dragon stops beside a ring of stone pillars, low and smooth from centuries of claw polish. Arranged at their base are teapots of every shape and size, stout clay ones with burn marks, ornate porcelain ones painted with blossoms, even plain chipped kettles that look like they belong in some mortal farmhouse kitchen. They sit in a circle, spouts facing inward, like old priests leaning toward a sacred flame. The dragon exhales, and steam coils from its nostrils, drifting across the pots. Instantly, the porcelain voices soften into a hush, like the cavern is holding its breath again. "Watch," the dragon says, lowering its head. It taps a claw against one teapot, and the spout trembles. A thin thread of steam rises from it, though no water sits inside. The dragon hums, low, steady, vibrating the stone beneath your feet, and the other teapots answer, each spout sighing, each cup exhaling a memory. Suddenly you're surrounded by a soundscape that doesn't belong to this place. The clatter of cups on saucers, the scrape of chairs, the bubbling of water poured fresh. Laughter, clear and warm, blooms all around you. You smell roasted leaves, bitter and sweet, and for a moment it's as if you'd been transported to 100 kitchens and gardens at once. The dragon leans down, and this is the part that nearly breaks your brain. It lifts one of the tiniest cups between two claws. Its enormous tongue flicks once, steam curling, before it lowers its mouth and takes the faintest sip. A dragon sipping from a thimble-sized cup. You nearly choke on your own air trying not to laugh. It's absurd. It's comedy gold. It's the kind of image that should be painted on tavern walls to make children giggle. But you don't laugh because something shifts the moment the dragon swallows. The cavern quivers with heat, not destructive, not wild, but steady. The air vibrates, your bones hum, and the shelves of porcelain glow faintly, like stars scattered across the dark. The voices in the cups stop their murmuring. For the first time since you entered, there's silence. The dragon lets out a sigh, long and low, that rolls across the cavern like thunder. Ritual, ceremony. Without it, the fire grows wild, too hot, too cruel. You blink. So you're telling me dragons basically calm themselves with tea ceremonies? The dragon gives you a look so dry it could drain a river. Not calm, balance. We honor flame by steeping it. We sip, we breathe, we remember. Without ritual, our fire would devour all. This is not relaxation. You nod quickly, though the absurd image of the giant lizard holding a tea ceremony refuses to leave your mind.
The dragon lowers the tiny cup back into place and gestures toward the circle. Each vessel carries not only memory, but discipline. When I drink, I am reminded, fire is not mine alone. It is a gift, a burden shared with every dragon before me. The porcelain voices return, softer this time, chanting fragments in unison. Steady flame, steady flame. The dragon closes his eyes, humming again, and the entire cavern vibrates like a great kettle simmering on the edge of boil. You feel it in your chest, your teeth, the soles of your boots. The ceremony is less about drinking, more about aligning. Dragon, cup, fire, moon. When the hum fades, the cavern exhales, the shelves clink faintly, the teapots sigh, and the dragon opens its eyes once more. For a fleeting second, you think you see gratitude flicker there, as though it wanted an audience, and you were simply convenient. Now you understand. The ceremony is not for mortals to mock. It is survival. You almost mutter something about this being the world's most dramatic tea party, but you wisely keep it to yourself this time. Instead, you just stand among the shelves, surrounded by cups that hold centuries of whispers, watching the dragon balance fire with porcelain delicacy, and think, maybe, just maybe, gold hoards aren't nearly as interesting as this.
The dragon straightens from the circle of teapots, its massive body unfolding like a mountain shifting in slow motion. The air feels calmer now, quieter, as though the ritual pressed the cavern into stillness. But as you glance further down the shelves, past the orderly rows of cups and kettles, you notice something different. Toward the far end of the lair, the shelves aren't neat anymore. They slope, cracked and jagged, cups piled in heaps instead of careful lines. Handles snapped clean off, teapots split down the middle, saucers scattered like fallen leaves. The air around that section buzzes harsher, more restless, as if the voices inside those shards never stop whispering. The dragon follows your gaze, its molten eyes narrow. "Ah," it rumbles, "you've found the scars." You step closer, curiosity outweighing your good sense. The broken porcelain doesn't just whisper, it hisses. Some fragments grind against each other without moving, their voices clipped and angry. It's the sound of arguments, unfinished stories, slammed doors. You hear words like traitor and mine and stop him. The dragon pads over and the floor trembles. "Once," it says, "we fought wars over these. Not for thrones, not for kingdoms, for clay." You blink at it. "You're telling me dragons had porcelain wars?" The dragon exhales through its nostrils, sending out twin jets of steam that swirl across the broken shelves. "You think mortals are the only ones who destroy themselves over trifles? No. When we first learned the truth of vessels, how they tether flame, how they steady it, we coveted the finest. Not all clay holds memory, not all glaze sings. The right hands could craft vessels stronger than armor, brighter than fire." The porcelain shards seem to hiss louder, as though remembering the battles. You can almost picture it. Dragons clashing above shattered kilns, claw and flame tearing through the sky, not for crowns, but for teapots. The dragon continues, its tone grim. "The finest guilds of potters became targets. Villages burned, not for land, not for gold, but for their kilns. We slaughtered each other for the strongest porcelain, the most delicate glaze. Entire broods ended in those wars. It was foolish." Its voice dips lower, rougher. "Foolish, but inevitable." You glance at the broken pieces again. Some shards glow faintly, still humming with memory. Others simply weep,
tiny, thin wails that scrape the back of your teeth. The sound is awful, like grief that refuses to end. The dragon lowers its head close enough that you feel the heat radiating off its scales. Every fracture remembers, it says. When a cup shatters, the memory does not vanish. It sharpens. It screams. You swallow hard. And you keep them anyway? The dragon's gaze flicks to you, and for a moment you see something old in its eyes, older than the moon pact, older than the fire itself. We keep them because they are ours, because even in brokenness they bind us. To discard them would be cowardice. The cavern seems to vibrate with agreement. The shards rattle faintly, as though they resent being ignored. You hear another phrase rise from the chaos. He stole it! He stole it! You freeze. The words repeat, sharper, overlapping from dozens of cracked pieces. He stole it! He stole it! The dragon shifts its gaze toward the silver shrine in the distance. Yes, it says quietly, that is the wound we cannot heal. The silver pourer was nearly lost in those wars. One of us, one of my own brood, tried to claim it for himself. He shattered half the collection in his greed. The porcelain shrieked at the memory, and you stagger back, clutching your ears. The voices overlap into a harsh cacophony of betrayal, warning, anger. The dragon growls low and commanding. The shards fall silent, though the air still hums with their unrest. We call them the Porcelain Wars, an era when we nearly broke the pact with moonlight through our own hunger. Many of us still carry those cracks. They whisper to remind us fire is never tamed for long. You look again at the jagged shelves. The broken cups glare back with empty cracks like mouths frozen mid-scream. And you realize it isn't just history. Those voices are still living in the shards, restless, angry, unwilling to forgive. You shiver because the truth clicks into place. Dragons don't hoard tea sets just for memory. They hoard them because without those vessels, whole or broken, the fire might spill free again.
The shards are still hissing faintly when you turn away, your ears ringing with their jagged chorus. The dragon lingers, staring at them the way someone stares at a scar, old, healed, but never forgotten. For the first time, its molten gaze looks tired. Not weak, exactly, but burdened. Then you notice a single saucer perched on a ledge apart from the chaos. It's cracked nearly in half, held together with what looks like golden lacquer. The fracture gleams in the firelight, veins of brilliance tracing its wounds. You step closer without thinking, drawn by the shimmer. The dragon shifts immediately, tail lashing against the stone. Careful, it warns, voice sharp. That one remembers too much. But you're already leaning in, close enough to see the details. Ivy leaves painted along the rim, faded to the color of smoke. When your shadow crosses it, the saucer exhales. Not a sigh this time, but a voice. A single, crisp sentence, as if someone whispered directly into your skull. He betrayed us. The sound makes your teeth ache. The dragon's head lowers beside you, its eye a burning coin. It speaks of the one who broke the pact, the one who tried to claim the silver pourer for himself. You swallow, throat dry. Another dragon? The dragon nods slowly. My brother. The saucer's crack glows faintly, and the voice repeats, more insistent, "He betrayed us. He betrayed us." You step back quickly. The sound doesn't fade. It follows, gnawing at your ears like it wants you to carry the words with you. The dragon rumbles deep in its chest. Every vessel remembers, but that one remembers the worst. The day fire almost consumed us all. You glance at the saucer again. It looks harmless, just an old piece glued back together. But standing near it makes your skin crawl. You can feel the betrayal inside it, heavy as a stone. The dragon speaks more softly now, almost like a confession. My brother shattered half the hoard in his greed. He thought if he drank alone from the silver pourer, he could command flame greater than any of us. He failed. The vessel burned him hollow. Your stomach knots. Burned him? How? The dragon's eye flickers with something almost like pity. He breathes still, but only ash. His voice is gone. His fire devours without warmth. Even now, he wanders, searching for cups to fill the emptiness inside him. The saucer pulses again, whispering its endless refrain. He betrayed us. He betrayed us. The dragons lift its head, claws flexing against the stone. That is why we do not discard even the broken ones. Every shard is a warning. Every crack is a memory of what greed costs. You shiver, staring at the saucer's golden seams. It isn't just a piece of porcelain. It's a wound preserved, a reminder that dragons aren't invincible, that even they can tear themselves apart chasing too much fire. For a fleeting, ridiculous moment, you picture a family dinner where every dish won't stop bringing up old arguments. You almost laugh, but the sound would break against the cavern's heaviness. Instead, you mutter, "So dragons really do hold grudges forever." The dragon huffs, a plume of steam curling past your face. Not grudges, but warnings carved in clay. The cavern hums with the truth of it. Every crack around you feels louder now, sharper, each fracture carrying a memory too jagged to forget. And as you step back from the golden lacquered saucer, you realize you're not just looking at a broken cup. You're staring at betrayal fossilized in porcelain, a story that refuses to fade, even after centuries of fire and moonlight.
The golden-seamed saucer's whisper still clings to your ears. He betrayed us. He betrayed us. When the dragon nudges you away from it with a claw. Not a shove exactly, but enough pressure to remind you that curiosity has limits. Come, it says, you've seen the shards, now see the ritual of restraint. You're led down a narrower tunnel where the air cools slightly, the glow of fire dimming to a dusky orange. The shelves here are lower, less imposing, lined with cups and saucers set neatly in pairs. None are chipped or broken. Their porcelain gleams faintly, as if polished daily. The atmosphere feels calmer, almost domestic, like stepping into the kitchen of a grandmother who insists on everything being spotless before guests arrive. At the tunnel's end, the floor widens into a stone table, and on that table sits something both absurd and incredible. A complete tea set, arranged for two. There's a teapot painted with chrysanthemums, 6 matching cups, and a sugar bowl shaped like a little rabbit. And waiting beside it, oh gods, an enormous dragon stool,
carved from stone, its seat indented by centuries of use. The dragon lowers itself onto the stool with exaggerated care, curling its tail around like a polite dinner guest tucking in a chair. "Sit," it commands, gesturing with a claw toward the opposite side of the stone table. You glance at the seat provided, a slab of stone just high enough for a human, clearly carved for guests. It feels ridiculous, like being invited to high tea with a volcano, but you sit, because refusing is not an option. The dragon reaches delicately for the teapot. Its claws, impossibly precise, lift the porcelain by the handle as though it were no heavier than a feather. Steam curls from the spout, though you didn't see anyone pour water in. This, the dragon explains, is etiquette. Balance requires ceremony, not just drinking. We sip as mortals do. We bow. We pour. We listen. You watch, half mesmerized, half trying not to laugh. The image of a massive, scale-covered beast delicately tipping a pot is comedic in the extreme, yet the seriousness with which it moves strips the moment of humor. This is sacred, not silly. The dragon pours first into its own cup, a tiny vessel that looks comical in its grip, then into yours. The liquid inside shimmers green gold, releasing a grassy floral steam. The smell hits your nose, fresh, vibrant, alive. "Do not gulp," the dragon warns. "Mortals always gulp." You obediently lift the cup. The porcelain is warm, humming faintly as if alive. You sip. The flavor floods your tongue. Bitter at first, then sweet, then smoky, layered and complex in a way no ordinary tea should be. It's like drinking memory itself. The dragon sips as well, lips pursing carefully around the cup. The sight is absurd again. Those claws, that monstrous jaw handling something so delicate. But the beast closes its eyes and hums, content, like the ritual steadies a storm inside it. "Etiquette," it says, lowering the cup, "is what keeps us from devouring ourselves. Claws destroy. Fire devours. But this," it gestures to the table, "teaches us restraint." You take another sip, and the hum from the cup deepens. For a moment you swear you hear a voice, faint, maternal, murmuring, "Be careful, it's hot." The words blur into the steam. You set the cup down quickly, heart thudding. The dragon notices, but doesn't comment. Instead, it demonstrates the rest of the ritual. It wipes its claws along a cloth, bows its head toward the teapot, and even offers you the sugar bowl with painstaking politeness. The rabbit-shaped lid wobbles as though amused by the absurdity of the moment. Part of you wants to laugh again. Tea with the dragon, sugar optional. But another part feels the weight of the ceremony. The dragon isn't pretending to be civilized. This is civilization for it. Without this exact ritual, perhaps it would lose control, its fire tearing loose like a storm with no anchor. When the last sip is gone, the dragon carefully returns each cup to its place. It hums again, a low note that makes the table vibrate. The porcelain hums back, soft and delicate, a choir of agreement. The dragon opens its eyes. Now you see, even claws can hold with care. Even fire can pause. This is how we endure. You nod, still holding your tiny cup, steam curling from it like a faint reminder of all the voices steeped within. And though the absurd image of a dragon sipping politely will never leave your brain, you understand now. It isn't absurd. It's survival.
The dragon clears away the last of the cups with a care that borders on reverence.
You watch as it sets each porcelain piece back into its alcove, adjusting the angle of a saucer, turning the rabbit-shaped sugar bowl so its ears point outward. When the dragon finally straightens, its tail sweeps the floor with a sound like cloth dragged across stone. The calm from the tea ceremony lingers in the air, but as you rise from your seat, something shifts. You realize how impossibly quiet the cavern is now. Not silent, never silent, not with thousands of vessels murmuring their fragments, but hushed. The whispers have softened into faint hums, like sleeping breath. You take a step, the hush deepens, and then you hear it, an absence. The dragon notices too. Its molten gaze narrows, ears twitching. "Do you feel it?" it asks. You pause, straining your ears. At first you think it's just your imagination, but no, the cavern is missing something. The usual endless chatter of voices, the constant tide of memories, has thinned. A hole in the soundscape, a silence too sharp to ignore. The dragon exhales, a plume of steam rolling across the shelves. "That is why we hoard them," it says quietly, "because silence is hunger, and hunger burns." You frown. "I don't follow." The dragon lowers its head, eyes blazing. Every cup, every pot carries a memory, and with memory comes stillness. Without them, its voice drops, rumbling in its chest. The fire inside us roars louder. Silence makes it wild. That is why we collect, why we guard, not for greed, but for quiet. You blink at it. "Wait, you're telling me dragons hoard teacups because they're calming?" The dragon doesn't answer. Instead, it leads you deeper, past shelves where the porcelain grows plainer. Stacks of bowls with faded glaze, mismatched saucers, pots so ordinary you might find their twins abandoned in a mortal attic. They don't gleam with gold, they don't whisper as much, but the dragon moves among them with even greater care. "These," it says, running a claw lightly along a chipped rim, "are the most precious, the humble ones. They carry the hush of simple lives, quiet kitchens, evenings by the hearth, hands that trembled but poured anyway. Gold is noise, jewels are noise, but this," it gestures to the rows of plain, worn vessels, "this is silence, and silence is what we crave." You reach toward one of the plainer cups. The moment your fingertip brushes it, a sensation rushes through you, not words this time, but stillness. The faint clatter of a spoon, the soft sigh of someone stirring sugar, the muted scrape of chair legs against floor. It's like stepping into another person's quiet evening, a memory so ordinary it becomes profound. You pull your hand back, heart oddly heavy. The dragon watches you, smoke curling from its nostrils. "Do you understand now?" You nod slowly. You're not collecting treasure, you're collecting peace. The dragon chuckles, though there's no humor in it. Peace is rarer than gold, harder to steal, harder to keep. The shelves hum softly, as if agreeing. The dragon's gaze lingers on them, its pupils tightening like a cat's. For a moment you think you see something almost vulnerable in its eyes, a beast that has lived centuries, surrounded by endless fire, desperate for the hush that only old cups can bring. You want to joke, to say something like, "So dragons are just really into ASMR," but the thought dies before it reaches your tongue. The hush is too thick, too sacred. Instead, you step back, letting the dragon stand among its rows of ordinary porcelain, its hoard not of wealth, but of silence. And you realize, uncomfortably, that you've never understood greed at all. Not dragon greed, anyway. because what looks like madness from the outside might actually be survival. The hush of the plain cups still clings to your ears when the dragon turns its head sharply, nostrils flaring. Its molten eyes brighten with a sudden intensity. "Enough stillness," it murmurs. "You must see the leaves themselves." You hesitate. Leaves? The dragon rises, massive body shifting against the stone with a thunderous scrape, and begins padding deeper into the warren. You follow, your footsteps tiny against the cavern's echo. The air changes as you walk, growing warmer, damper, almost like stepping into a greenhouse. A scent hangs in the tunnel now, richer than before, sweet, earthy, with a faint tang that tingles your tongue even before you breathe it in. When the cavern widens again, you nearly stumble. Before you sprawls a chamber of jars, not porcelain this time, but clay, glass, bronze, and even hollowed geodes. Thousands of containers line the walls, each sealed tight with wax or cloth. Some are tiny enough to fit in your palm, others tall as a man. The air is thick with fragrance, smoke, flowers, herbs, layered so deep you can almost taste centuries of steeped leaves at once. The dragon approaches one jar, its claw tapping the wax seal with the tenderness of someone stroking a child's head. Gold tarnishes, gems fracture, but leaves keep their secrets for centuries. Steep them, and the past walks into the present. You hesitate. Leaves? The dragon rises, massive body shifting against the stone with a thunderous scrape, and begins padding deeper into the warren. You follow, your footsteps tiny against the cavern's echo. The air changes as you walk, growing warmer, damper, almost like stepping into a greenhouse. A scent hangs in the tunnel now, richer than before, sweet, earthy, with a faint tang that tingles your tongue even before you breathe it in. When the cavern widens again, you nearly stumble. Before you sprawls a chamber of jars, not porcelain this time, but clay, glass, bronze, and even hollowed geodes. Thousands of containers line the walls, each sealed tight with wax or cloth. Some are tiny enough to fit in your palm, others tall as a man. The air is thick with fragrance, smoke, flowers, herbs, layered so deep you can almost taste centuries of steeped leaves at once. The dragon approaches one jar, its claw tapping the wax seal with the tenderness of someone stroking a child's head. Gold tarnishes, gems fracture, but leaves keep their secrets for centuries. Steep them, and the past walks into the present. You edge closer, drawn by the smell. The dragon breaks a seal and lifts the lid. Immediately, a rush of fragrance bursts into the air, spiced, sharp, almost electric. The scent prickles against your skin, making your hair stand on end. Smell, it instructs. You lean in and inhale. For a moment, the cavern vanishes. You're standing in a summer field, cicadas buzzing, the air heavy with heat. You can almost hear laughter in the distance, see pale hands plucking leaves from low shrubs. When you stagger back, the vision shatters. The dragon replaces the lid with reverence. That one sharpens the ears. Mortals once brewed it before listening to prophecies. It moves to another jar and cracks it open. A different smell unfurls, deep, smoky, bitter. This one clings to your tongue even though you didn't sip it. Suddenly, your eyes sharpen. You notice cracks in the cavern walls you hadn't seen before. The faint shimmer of heat radiating from the dragon's scales. That one, the dragon rumbles, lets us see through stone, useful when hunting or hiding. You blink rapidly, shaking off the lingering sharpness. It's dizzying how a mere whiff alters your senses. The dragon prowls the chamber, pointing out jars like a curator at an impossible museum. Leaves that let dragons taste fear in the air. Leaves that slow their fire so it warms instead of burns. Leaves that lend wings the strength to beat through storms. Finally, it stops at a jar unlike the others, crystalline, glowing faintly from within. The dragon does not touch it, only stares. That one, it says softly, is not for mortals. Even dragons dare not brew it often. Its steam stirs the soul too fiercely. A single sip can make a heart burn until it bursts. You swallow, throat dry. Then why keep it? The dragon turns its gaze toward you, fire reflecting in its eyes. Because power must be remembered, even if never touched. The jars around you seem to hum louder, the fragrances mingling into a storm that presses against your senses. You suddenly realize that this, more than the porcelain, more than the rituals, is the true danger. Not just cups carrying memory, but leaves carrying transformation. The dragon exhales slowly, steam curling through the chamber. Now you see why we guard them. Gold only shines, but tea changes. You glance at the glowing jar again, uneasy. Somewhere in the mingled scents, you think you catch a faint whisper. Not words this time, but a heartbeat, pounding, urgent, alive.
That faint heartbeat still echoes in your ears as you step back from the glowing jar. The cavern of leaves seems suddenly alive, as though the jars themselves lean toward you, waiting for your breath, your hands, your weakness. You shove your palms into your pockets before you do something spectacularly stupid, like unscrew one just to see what happens. The dragon notices. Its voice rumbles low. Do not linger near that one. Curiosity feeds fire, and fire has no patience for restraint. It sweeps past you, leading you into yet another chamber. Here, the air feels heavier, more solemn. The fragrance of leaves fades, replaced by the faint clink of porcelain. Rows of teacups line the shelves, each isolated in its own alcove. No stacks, no clutter, just one fragile vessel per stone niche. Each is illuminated by a gentle glow, like moonlight distilled into glass. These, the dragon says softly, are anchors. You pause. Anchors? The dragon lowers its massive head until one gleaming eye peers at you from the level of the shelves. Every dragon carries fire in its chest. It is not warmth. It is not life. It is a storm. It will devour flesh, claw, and scale if left untethered. We are not born to survive ourselves, so we bind. It extends a claw toward a porcelain cup painted with blue herons. The cup trembles faintly, humming with invisible resonance. Each vessel holds a fragment of fire. When chosen, it steadies us. The cup remembers what we cannot. patience, calm, endurance. You glance at the rows of delicate cups, each one humming softly. Your skin prickles as if standing in a cathedral. These aren't mere artifacts, they're lifelines. So, if one breaks, you begin. The dragon exhales sharply, the steam hot against your cheek. Then we falter. One shard less of silence, one tether loosened. You imagine it. A dragon without enough cups, fire slipping from its bones like molten tide, consuming everything in its path. No wonder they hoard obsessively. It's not greed, it's survival with porcelain handcuffs. The dragon guides you to a niche at eye level. Inside rests a cup so plain you almost laugh. White porcelain, no paint, no flourish, just a shallow bowl. But the air around it hums louder than the others. This one, the dragon murmurs, tethers me. Without it, I burn the sky. You stare. It's absurd, really. A colossal beast anchored by something so fragile it could shatter if you sneeze too hard. And yet, standing there, you feel the truth humming in your bones. That cup holds the storm at bay. A wild thought tickles your brain, the kind of thought you know you shouldn't voice, but do anyway. So, dragons are basically emotional support tea drinkers? The dragon's head swivels slowly toward you, its eyes narrow. Then, after a long pause, it huffs. Steam billows from its nostrils, and you swear you hear the faintest rumble of amusement beneath it. Mortals, it mutters, always turning reverence into jest. Still, the edge of his voice is softened, and you exhale the breath you didn't realize you were holding. You let your gaze sweep the chamber one last time. Hundreds of cups, hundreds of anchors, each one a fragile wall between order and chaos. And you wonder, what happens when there are not enough cups left in the world to hold them all?
The question gnaws at you as you trail behind the dragon. What happens when the world runs out of cups? The thought feels absurd. Teacups aren't exactly rare, but the weight in your chest says otherwise. The dragon doesn't answer your unspoken worry. Instead, it moves deeper, into a passage so narrow its wings fold tight against its body. You slip through behind it, brushing your shoulders against damp stone. When the corridor widens again, you stop short. This chamber is unlike the others. No neat alcoves, no tidy rows of vessels. Instead, the floor is littered with shards. Broken porcelain crunches beneath your boots. Handles snapped clean off, bowls split down the middle, saucers reduced to powder. The walls are jagged with half-embedded fragments, as if the cavern itself tried to swallow them whole. The dragon doesn't step further. It lingers at the edge, massive head bowed. Here, it says softly, are the lost voices. You crouch, brushing your fingers against a shard. The piece is nothing special, just the curved rim of a once-painted cup. But the moment your skin touches it, a sensation claws at your mind. A scream, not of pain, but of silence, of something being ripped away. It's gone in an instant, leaving only the echo. You yank your hand back. That wasn't pleasant. The dragon's gaze burns down at you. When a vessel breaks, the memory shatters. The fire within it escapes. What was once calm becomes hunger again. We cannot mend all wounds. Some voices are lost forever. It nudges a larger shard with one claw. The fragment glows faintly, but no sound comes. No whisper, no hum, just emptiness. They still carry weight, but not peace,
only reminders. You stand, your boots grinding porcelain dust. Why keep them at all, then? Why not sweep them away? The dragon lifts its head, and for the first time its eyes look haunted. Because we are not allowed to forget what breaks us. The words hang heavy in the air. You glance around at the wreckage, and something odd strikes you. The shards form paths, as though the dragon has walked here often. Patterns spiral outward from the center, where a circle of cleared stone lies bare. You point toward it. What happens there? The dragon hesitates, then lowers its voice. Here we test the silence. A dragon steps into the circle and lets the broken speak through them. If they can withstand it, their fire steadies. If not, its tail lashes once, scattering fragments. They burn themselves hollow. You picture it, massive beasts standing where you stand, surrounded by wreckage, daring silence to unravel them. It sends a chill crawling up your arms. On impulse, you step toward the circle. The shards crunch louder underfoot, as though they disapprove. The dragon's growl rumbles like distant thunder. Careful, mortal, the silence does not care for your kind. But your curiosity digs deeper than your fear. You stand inside the bare circle, heart thumping. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the air presses in, heavy and suffocating. The shards at the edge of the ring quiver. You hear them, not in words, but in absence. A chorus of broken things screaming to be whole again. Your chest tightens, your knees wobble. You feel your own memories tugged at, splintered, threatened with fracture. And then the dragon's roar shakes the cavern. The shards fall still, the weight lifts. You stumble out of the circle, gasping, your hands trembling. The dragon's voice is iron. Do not tempt silence again. You look up at it, throat dry. That's what you live with? All the time? The dragon nods once, a slow, grave motion. That is why we hoard. Not for beauty, not for wealth, but because every unbroken cup is one less voice in that circle. You stare at the shards around you, suddenly aware how fragile the balance is. Every vessel saved is a reprieve. Every vessel lost is another scream added to the silence. And for the first time, you wonder if maybe the real treasure isn't the porcelain itself. Maybe it's survival, measured one fragile cup at a time.
The chamber of broken porcelain lingers in your mind long after you leave it behind. The crunch of shards under your boots feels ghostly, still echoing, even though the tunnel ahead is bare stone again. You keep glancing back over your shoulder, half expecting those fractured cups to shuffle after you like skeletal remains refusing to stay buried. The dragon doesn't speak for a long while. Its steps are slow, deliberate, each clawed foot landing with a scrape that seems heavier than before. Finally, it mutters, "Now you understand why our hoards grow, but you do not yet know the danger of them." You arch an eyebrow. Danger? You mean aside from, the whole soul-shattering silence if one breaks thing? The dragon's eye narrows slightly, though you swear it almost smirks. There is more than silence to fear. The tunnel opens into a cavern so vast you lose the ceiling in shadow. Here, the hoard is unlike the quiet, reverent collections you've seen before.
The shelves are gone, the careful alcoves abandoned. Instead, porcelain cups, pots, and saucers are piled in precarious towers that lean against one another like drunks at a tavern. Hundreds, no, thousands of vessels, stacked without order. Steam curls faintly between the piles, as though the porcelain sweats under invisible pressure. Your mouth grows dry. This feels less like curating and more like hoarding. The dragon's tail swishes, the sound sharp, because suspicion breeds carelessness. It stalks forward, circling the piles. Its voice drops low, almost a growl. Among dragons, porcelain is not shared. Each anchor is sacred, and each leaf is power. We do not trust one another to keep balance, so we clutch what we can, even fragments, even cracked kettles, even lies. You blink. Lies? You mean some of these aren't even real? The dragon pauses at a lopsided tower, nostrils flaring. Mortals craft counterfeits. Other dragons do worse. They bind empty vessels, hoping to fool their own flame. It never works. But fear is stronger than reason. It nudges one teapot, its spout chipped. The whole stack wobbles dangerously. The dragon's gaze sharpens. I do not hoard like this, but others do, and their paranoia poisons them. As if summoned by the word, a sound ripples through the chamber, a faint scrape, ceramic against stone. You freeze, head snapping toward the noise. One of the piles trembles, a cup sliding down and shattering against the floor. From the shadows, another dragon stirs. This one is smaller, its scales duller, but its eyes burn with an intensity that makes your stomach lurch. It coils protectively around a heap of porcelain, wings half spread. When it speaks, its voice is hoarse, ragged. Keep away, they're mine. Your companion dragon lets out a deep rumble, not quite a growl, not quite a sigh. This one has lost sense. Suspicion has hollowed him. You take an instinctive step back as the hoarding dragon glares, baring teeth. Its claws scrabble against the pile, dragging broken cups closer. Shards cut into its own scales, but it doesn't flinch. They whisper to me. Even broken, they whisper. You won't take them. You won't steal my silence. You look helplessly at your dragon. Do I need to be worried about, being flambéed here? The dragon shakes its head slowly. He will not burn you. He will burn himself first. And indeed you see it, the flicker of fire leaking between the hoarding dragon's teeth, too wild, too untethered. The broken porcelain around him trembles as if reflecting his instability. His wings twitch, his tail lashes, and you suddenly understand what suspicion has done. It has made him his own worst enemy. Your dragon exhales smoke, the plume spreading like a veil. This is what happens when porcelain is hoarded, not for calm, but for fear. They turn their dens into prisons, and themselves into prisoners. The hoarding dragon snarls again, clutching a cracked kettle to its chest like a dying child. Then it slumps, scales rattling as its body trembles. The fire seeps out of it in uneven gusts, not a roar, but a slow, wasting leak. You can't look away. The piles of porcelain gleam faintly, catching the dim light. Fragile, delicate, yet powerful enough to twist a dragon's mind into madness. And in the silence that follows, a thought whispers in your head. Maybe the real danger isn't the fire inside them. Maybe it's the way they guard against each other.
The chamber of paranoid towers fades into the shadows behind you, but the image clings, that other dragon clutching a broken kettle like a starving child, suspicion hollowing him from the inside out. You wonder how many more of them exist in hidden caverns, snarling over chipped saucers as though they were kingdoms. Your dragon leads you upward through a sloping tunnel, the air growing cooler, fresher. The stone underfoot is smoother, worn by countless claws and boots. When you emerge into the next cavern, you halt. This chamber feels different. The air hums with absence, not presence. The shelves here are mostly bare, just dust-lined grooves where cups once sat. A few lonely vessels remain, guarded not by dragons, but by faint wards etched into the stone. The patterns shimmer like spiderwebs in morning light. "These," the dragon says, voice edged with distaste, "are not empty by choice. They were stolen." Your brows shoot up. Wait, you're saying mortals came in here and actually swiped tea sets from under dragons' noses? That's bold, or very, very stupid. The dragon's lip curls, revealing teeth. Both. You step closer to one of the shelves. The alcove is dusted with claw marks, deep grooves that scrape across the stone like scars. You can imagine the scene, a dragon returning, finding the vessel gone, tearing at the rock in futile rage. Why risk it? Why would anyone try to steal from creatures who can literally barbecue them? The dragon's gaze narrows, though not at you. "Because mortals covet what they do not understand. They see porcelain in our hoards and believe it rare treasure. They sell shards for fortunes. They mount cups in glass cases, believing beauty alone gives them value." It shifts, the ground trembling under its weight. Some know more. Some know the vessels hum with voices, that they can steady fire. Those mortals are most dangerous. They wish to bind our anchors for themselves. Your skin prickles. And does it work? Can humans actually use them? The dragon huffs, smoke curling upward. "Not as we do. A mortal holding such a vessel might taste calm for a breath, a flicker, but their fire is too small to need tethering. Instead, the vessels warp, they crack, they weaken. What anchors us becomes fragile, useless, ruined." You wince, picturing the shards in that other cavern. So every theft costs you more than just a cup? Exactly. The dragon prowls past the shelves, claws tracing faint grooves. "There were centuries when mortals hunted us, not for scales, not for blood, but for porcelain. Kings sent soldiers into our dens, thieves crept through shadowed valleys, whole guilds existed to sell us back our anchors, broken." Your throat goes dry. "That's a really bad business model." The dragon's eye glints. "For them, yes." You notice then the faint scorch marks near the ceiling, black smears that spider across the stone. You don't ask what happened to those thieves. The answer feels obvious. Yet part of you can't help but imagine it. The daring, the madness, a group of humans sneaking into these vaults with lanterns and sacks, slipping past claws and teeth for the chance to escape with a single saucer. The heartbeat rush of knowing one mistake would turn them to ash. You shiver. So the thieves failed? The dragon's head lowers, massive eye fixed on you. "Some, not all." A chill runs down your spine. You glance back at the shelves, half expecting to see your reflection staring from the emptiness. Because if some thieves succeeded, then somewhere in the world porcelain anchors rest in mortal hands. You can't help but wonder what that means. For dragons, for mortals, for the fragile balance between fire and silence, and whether one day you'll find yourself staring at one in a place far less safe than this cavern.
The thought of stolen cups refuses to leave your head. You follow the dragon along a twisting passage that slopes downward, the air turning warmer again, damp with mineral steam. Your boots squelch faintly where water seeps through cracks in the stone. The tunnel spills into a cavern unlike the others. Here, the walls shimmer faintly, as though painted with invisible light. Shelves line the rock in clean rows, each holding not porcelain, but glass jars filled with pale, swirling smoke. The sight makes your chest tighten. The dragon's voice drops to a hush. "Here we keep the stolen voices." You step closer to one of the jars. The smoke within shifts restlessly, pressing against the glass like breath on cold air. It makes no sound, but you feel it vibrate in your teeth, in your skull. Wait, these are the voices of the broken cups? The dragon nods once. When mortals crack a vessel, when suspicion shatters a set, the fire does not vanish, it escapes. If we are swift, we catch it before it becomes wild hunger. We seal it here. Your gaze roams the rows. There must be hundreds of jars, maybe thousands. And if you're not swift? The dragon's claws flex against the stone. Then we burn cities. The words hit like a stone in your gut. You stare at the jars with new weight. Each swirling wisp is not just memory, it's destruction narrowly averted, chaos barely leashed. One jar rattles as you watch, the smoke inside pulsing angrily. You take a quick step back. That one looks like it wants out. The dragon leans close, its breath fogging the glass. It does. They always do. They remember the vessel. They crave shape. Without it, they gnaw. You rub your arms, the cavern suddenly colder despite the steam. So what happens if one of these breaks? The dragon's eye flickers toward you. Pray you are far away. Your throat dries. You glance again at the jars, imagining one toppling from its shelf, the glass shattering, the smoke pouring free, screaming, clawing, burning everything it touches. You imagine the cavern filling with it, no vessel to hold it, no porcelain to soothe it, just unchained hunger. Why keep them here at all? You ask, voice tight. Why not, I don't know, destroy them? The dragon's gaze hardens. Because they are not ours to destroy. They are fragments of voices older than our fire. To end them would be to end ourselves. It moves slowly between the shelves, tail careful not to brush them. Instead, we guard them. We wait. And sometimes a mortal brings back what was stolen, a shard, a cup. Then the voice can rest again. You blink. Mortals bring them back after stealing them? Not the same mortals, their descendants, their guilty kin, or simply wanderers who stumble upon a piece and feel its weight. A silence stretches, broken only by the faint clink of shifting jars. Then softer, the dragon adds, "Perhaps one day you will." The implication lands heavy, though you're not sure you want to know why. Your eyes flick back to the restless jar, the one still rattling faintly. The smoke presses hard against the glass, forming what looks disturbingly like the curve of a hand. You step back again. Let's maybe not linger here too long, you mutter. The dragon exhales, slow and controlled, but you sense the tension in its body.
Agreed. Together you leave the cavern of stolen voices, but their presence clings. Even as the tunnel curves away, you feel that faint hum in your skull, a reminder that somewhere behind you, countless restless whispers wait, trapped and unquiet.
The tunnel out of the jar chamber feels unusually long, as if the stone itself is stretching, trying to keep you near those restless voices. When at last you emerge, the relief of open space is so sharp you almost laugh out loud. This cavern is unlike any you've seen before. The walls curve smoothly, shaped not by claws or time, but by deliberate care. The air here vibrates faintly, not with menace, but with something musical, like the ghost of a song echoing from nowhere. At the chamber's center rests a ring of teapots and cups, arranged not in towers or shelves, but in careful spirals on the floor. Their porcelain gleams, each piece unbroken, each spout angled toward the center like mouths poised to speak. The dragon lowers its head, eyes half closed. Here, we do not hoard, we remember. You frown. Remember how? This looks more like an orchestra pit than a hoard. As if in answer, the dragon exhales gently over the spiral. The breath is warm, a controlled hiss of steam that curls around the vessels. And then, faintly at first, they hum. The sound rises together, each cup and pot resonating at its own pitch. The chamber fills with vibrations, low thrums, high ringing notes, chords that shimmer in your bones. It's not chaotic, it's harmony, fragile and deliberate. Your jaw drops. They're singing? The dragon's throat vibrates in a soft, answering note. They are remembering. Each vessel carries a fragment of voice, of silence. When we breathe upon them, they awaken, they join. These are the tea songs of scales. The melody grows richer as the dragon continues to hum. Some cups tremble faintly, porcelain quivering as if alive. A teapot's spout whistles, a high note sliding into harmony with the rest. The sound wraps around you like warm cloth, thrumming gently in your chest. You sink to the stone floor without realizing, head tilted, eyes closing. It isn't just music, it's memory, emotion, loss, joy, all woven together in resonance. Each note feels older than you can grasp, as though you're listening to centuries compressed into sound. The dragon's voice slips into the current, deep and steady. The harmony bends around it, like waves around a stone. You realize then, the dragon isn't just humming, it's speaking, in a language you can't understand, but the tone is unmistakable. Grief, longing, a strange tenderness. Your eyes sting before you even realize you're crying. When the dragon finally falls silent, the vessels taper off one by one, the sound thinning until only a single cup rings softly. Then that too fades. The cavern holds its breath. You sniff, swiping at your face. Wow, okay. That was... gonna need a minute. The dragon's gaze softens, its massive head tilting. You felt it? Felt it, you laugh wetly. I'm still feeling it, like someone just reached inside and wrung my heart out like a sponge. The dragon chuckles low like rocks sliding. That is the purpose. The tea songs remind us what we hoard for. They temper our fire when suspicion grows. They tether us when voices claw for freedom. You glance back at the spiral of porcelain, now still and ordinary once more. So, they're not just anchors, they're choir members. Precisely. You hug your knees, trying to ground yourself. The silence after the song feels too sharp, too brittle. Part of you wants to beg the dragon to do it again, just to bring the resonance back. But part of you is also afraid that hearing it twice would break something in you. Instead, you whisper, "Do you ever sing to them alone?" The dragon's eyes glimmer faintly. "Always." And the way it says it makes you understand that for all their suspicion, for all their hoarding, dragons are never entirely alone when their porcelain sings back.
The spiral of porcelain lingers in your ears long after the hum has faded. Even as you rise, the vibrations seem to echo in your bones, like a phantom heartbeat that isn't entirely your own. The dragon leads you onward. Its steps are quieter now, almost reverent, as though the act of song has softened even its massive frame. You follow through another tunnel, this one lit by tiny cracks in the stone ceiling where pale shafts of moonlight drip like spilled milk. The air smells faintly of smoke, but not acrid, more like the fading wisp of tea steam after a long conversation. The next chamber is smaller, more intimate. It almost feels like a parlor, if parlors were cavernous and strewn with scales. Low tables carved from basalt stand in a circle, and atop them sit teapots, each one filled. At least it looks that way. Thin wisps of steam rise from their spouts, curling upward before vanishing into the cavern air. You blink. Wait, are you serving tea to no one? The dragon lowers itself carefully onto the stone, its wings folding like curtains. "Not no one," it says. And then you see them. At first, they're just distortions in the air, like heat rising from asphalt. But as your eyes adjust, they sharpen into shapes, faint silhouettes sitting at the tables, hands poised over cups. Their features flicker, sometimes sharp, sometimes blurred, but there's no mistaking their presence. Ghosts. The dragon gently nudges one pot, tilting it so liquid, clear, shimmering, not entirely real, pours into a waiting cup. The specter's hand moves in response, curling around porcelain. Steam wafts upward, and the ghost bows its head as though inhaling deeply. Your skin prickles. You're hosting a tea party for the dead? The dragon doesn't answer right away. Its eyes are far away, fixed on the phantoms. "For the remembered," it says softly. You stand frozen, watching as more ghosts stir. One tips its cup and mimics a sip. Another leans forward, shoulders trembling as though in laughter, though no sound escapes. The air thickens with echoes of gestures, fragments of lives long gone. It's unsettling, and yet it's tender. The dragon finally turns toward you. Each vessel carries more than silence. It carries memory. The ones who touched it, the ones who poured, the ones who drank. When we steep their fragments, they return, for a time. Your voice is shaky. "So, these are all people you knew?" The dragon's throat rumbles. "Not all. Some belong to others of my kind. Some belong to mortals long since dust. Some belong to me." It lowers its head closer to the table. "My mother sits there. She drank from that cup when her wings were still bright. My mate, too, though she fades more quickly now." The words catch at your chest. You glance at the ghosts again. One figure seems to tilt its head your way, though its face is blurred. The gesture is so casual, so human, you nearly wave back before realizing how wrong that would feel. Do they know they're here?" you ask quietly. The dragon exhales a thin stream of smoke. "They do not know. They remember faintly, like dreams. It is enough for us."
The cavern feels heavy with longing, with conversations that can never be spoken aloud. You realize suddenly that this is why dragons hoard tea sets, not just for anchors, not just for harmony, but for company, for voices they can't bear to lose. You murmur, "That's kind of heartbreaking." The dragon doesn't disagree. You watch a little longer as the ghosts mimic laughter, tilt their cups, vanish and reappear. And for the first time since entering these caverns, you feel like an intruder, like you're peeking into a ritual not meant for you. "Maybe I should, step outside," you offer. But the dragon shakes its head slowly. "No, stay. It is rare, mortal, for one of your kind to see what we keep closest to flame." The ghosts ripple faintly, cups raised in a silent toast, and though no sound reaches your ears, you swear you can feel the clink of porcelain echo through the stone.
The air still holds the faint warmth of phantom steam as you follow the dragon deeper, farther than you've ever gone. Your mind buzzes with images of those ghosts raising invisible cups, silent laughter rippling in a circle of memory. You have expect more tender strangeness ahead, something bittersweet but harmless. Instead, the tunnel grows colder. The light fades until even the dragon's glow dims to embers, and the silence is so thick it presses against your skin. You shiver, hugging your arms, though part of you suspects the chill isn't physical at all. The cavern you enter now is stark. No spirals of porcelain, no careful shelves, just a single pedestal of stone, and upon it, one teapot. It's ornate, uncomfortably ornate. Dark glaze curls across its surface like black vines, the spout carved in the shape of a gaping mouth. Symbols scratch around its belly, sharp lines that make your eyes sting when you try to follow them. Unlike every other vessel you've seen, this one feels alive, and not in any way that brings comfort. The dragon halts at the threshold, claws sinking into stone. "Do not step closer," it warns, voice low and rough. You swallow hard. "Okay, but why do you even have this thing? Looks like the kind of antique you pick up at a cursed yard sale." The dragon's eyes flash, but not with humor. "We do not keep it by choice. Some vessels are not born from clay alone. They were shaped with whispers, with shadows, spirits that sought form but found only hunger." You glance back at the teapot, unease crawling through your chest. "So what? You're saying there's something inside it?" "There is someone inside it," the dragon says grimly. "A thing that once pretended to be mortal, drank tea with blood instead of leaves, and carved its own porcelain with the marrow of those it devoured. It sealed itself in glaze to outlast its end, and now it waits." The teapot seems to pulse faintly, like a heartbeat. For a second, you swear you see its spout twitch, almost like lips. You take a nervous step back. "And you're just leaving it there?" "We dare not destroy it. We dare not move it. To break the vessel would unbind what festers inside. To carry it would risk whisper reaching claw." You glance at the symbols again. You think you hear faint murmurs, too quiet to make sense, like words whispered just behind your ear. Your stomach knots. The dragon shifts uneasily. It speaks. Even now, it tempts, promises flame without hunger, memory without sorrow. Many have listened. Too many. Your throat tightens. "Wait, other dragons? They've fallen for it?"
The dragon's silence is answer enough. The teapot hums faintly, a low vibration that makes the stone floor shudder under your boots. You almost speak without meaning to, words rising that don't belong to you. Pour me, sip me, become me. You slap your hand over your mouth. Nope, I'm good, thanks. The dragon snarls, a sharp, guttural sound that makes the teapot fall silent. For the first time, you see unease ripple through the massive beast's body. It grows stronger, it mutters, stronger than before. The cavern suddenly feels too small, the air too thin. You back towards the tunnel, heart thudding. Okay, we've seen enough, right? Time to leave before it decides I'm its next tea buddy. The dragon hesitates, gaze fixed on the vessel. Then, reluctantly, it turns. Yes, we leave. But remember, mortal, our hoards are not only for beauty or memory. Some are prisons. Some we guard so the world does not burn in ways fire alone could never manage. You don't need more convincing. You hurry into the tunnel, desperate for the distance, but the hum lingers in your skull even after the shadows close behind you.
Even after the cursed chamber has been left behind, your pulse refuses to calm. Each drip of water in the tunnel sounds too much like a whisper, every echo too much like that low hum gnawing at your memory. You rub your temples, half expecting the words, pour me, sip me, become me, to sneak back in. The dragon walks ahead, its pace slower than before. You realize it isn't out of weariness, but thoughtfulness. The great beast finally speaks, its voice muted, as though afraid to stir echoes. You see now why we hoard, not for greed, not for glitter, for duty, for sorrow, for danger. Your boots scuff against stone. Yeah, I'm starting to get the picture. Honestly, gold feels like the healthier option. At least it doesn't sing, whisper, or try to crawl into your brain. The dragon releases a dry huff, almost like a laugh. Gold tempts mortals, porcelain tempts us. Both destroy if left unchecked. That sits heavy in your chest. You think back to the jar's whispering suspicion, to the harmony of the spiral, to the phantoms at their silent tea party. Each vessel holds a fragment, and fragments are unpredictable. Comfort one moment, poison the next. But why not just, you ask slowly, bury it all, hide the dangerous ones, forget the rest, move on? The dragon halts mid-step. Its wings flex, brushing the tunnel walls, and for a long moment it says nothing. Then, because memory buried festers, memory forgotten returns sharper. We do not keep tea sets for pleasure alone. We keep them so that history remains bound, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. You're quiet after that. It's not the kind of statement you can joke about. The tunnel broadens, opening into one final cavern. At first, you mistake it for empty, until your eyes catch the glint of porcelain piled high, not in careful spirals, not arranged like altars, but stacked into wild, unstable towers that stretch toward the ceiling. Cups hang off rims, teapots balance on spindly handles, and the whole thing looks like one misplaced breath might send it all crashing down. You whistle low. Okay, so this is the chaotic corner of your collection. The dragon shakes its head solemnly. This is the end pile, the place where vessels go when they are too fractured, too dangerous, too loud. We do not destroy them. We keep them here, muffled beneath weight and silence. You step closer, uneasy. The air buzzes faintly, like static. Some of the cups tremble on their precarious stacks as though quivering in frustration. A pot near the top twitches its lid like teeth grinding. "Uh-huh," you say carefully. "This feels like storing fireworks in a daycare. Sure, it's contained, for now." The dragon lowers its head, eyes hard. "Containment is all we can manage. To shatter them is to loose their voices. To drink from them is worse. So we balance them here, keep them beneath watch. One slip, one failure, and all the voices scream at once." You can almost hear it if you listen. Layers of whispers stacked like the porcelain itself, hundreds of overlapping tones clawing for attention. They rise and fall just at the edge of perception until your skin prickles with goosebumps. "Yeah, nope, not gonna listen too close. Already made that mistake once tonight." The dragon studies you, a flicker of amusement breaking through its solemn air. "You have endured more than most. Few mortals could step this deep and keep their mind intact." "Yeah," I reply with a shaky laugh. "Give me a participation ribbon." But inside, you know it's not over. The end pile hums louder as you back away, a soundless pressure in your skull. It's like the porcelain remembers you, recognizes you now that you've heard its siblings sing and whisper. The dragon notices your unease. "Come, we are nearly done. Only one truth remains to show you." You tear your gaze from the trembling towers, exhaling relief when the tunnel swallows them behind you. And yet, as you leave, you swear you hear a faint clatter of porcelain shifting, as if the end pile is stirring restlessly, impatient for the day its balance tips.
The tunnel breathes you out into the final cavern, and immediately you know this one is different. No piles, no prisons, no spirals. Just stillness. The walls arch smooth and high, shimmering faintly with veins of quartz that catch stray light like stars half asleep. At the chamber's center sits a single table, low and plain, carved from unpolished stone. Upon it, 2 cups. One is vast, scaled to the dragon's claw. The other is small, chipped at the rim, clearly meant for you. The dragon lowers itself across from the table, wings folding tight against its body. For once, it looks less like a beast and more like an old host settling into ritual. Its gaze meets yours, steady but softened.
"You have seen," it says. "You have heard. You have felt. And now you must taste." Your throat grows dry.
Taste? Wait, what exactly am I drinking here? Please don't say ectoplasm. A faint curl of smoke escapes the dragon's nostrils, amused despite itself.
"Only tea. Simple leaves steeped in water. Nothing more. But through these cups truth flows."
Steam rises from the vessels. The smell is earthy, unfamiliar, yet soothing. You hesitate, half expecting the chipped cup to hiss, to whisper, to lunge at your lips. But it only sits, waiting, ordinary and patient. The dragon raises its enormous cup delicately.
"We hoard not for wealth, not for breed. We hoard because memory chooses us, and because we cannot bear silence. This is our burden and our gift. Sip, mortal, and you will understand why gold is dust to us and porcelain endures."
You lift the cup slowly, the chip rough beneath your fingers. The tea is hot, but not scalding. You breathe it in and take a cautious sip. At once the cavern blurs. Your vision floods, not with one memory, not with one voice, but with countless fragments layered atop each other. A mother's laughter, the clink of cups on a balcony at dusk, a dragon hatchling pressing its snout to a kettle's steam, a funeral wake where no one speaks but the teapot in the center keeps pouring. You reel, the flood of sensations dizzying, but beneath the cacophony there's a thread, warmth, fragile, fleeting, but stubborn. The tea doesn't drown you, it steadies you. You blink back into the cavern, cup trembling in your hand. The dragon watches closely. "Well?" it asks. It's everything, all at once. Grief, joy, the whole mess, like drinking a scrapbook and a ghost story at the same time. The dragon inclines its head.
Now you know. That is why our hoards are not gold. Gold is mute. Porcelain sings.
You set the cup down carefully, afraid of shattering it. The silence that follows feels different now. Thick, yes, but alive with echoes. The dragon rumbles low, almost like a sigh.
I will leave soon. You will tell others, perhaps. Most will not believe. That is well. The fewer who seek our hoards, the safer all remain.
You meet its gaze. I'll tell it, but like a bedtime story, not a treasure map. A long pause, then the dragon's massive head dips in approval.
Wise. Mortals hunger for what they should not touch. Let them sleep instead.
The steam between you swirls lazily, the faint clink of porcelain echoing once as though in farewell. And for the first time, you don't feel like prey or intruder. You feel like a guest at the quietest, strangest tea party in the world. The dragon leans back, eyes soft.
Go now. Curry the taste. Remember.
You stand, legs shaky, and make for the tunnel, still feeling the warmth of the tea in your chest. The cavern fades behind you, and the hum of porcelain fades with it. But the memory, fragile, stubborn, remains. And so your steps grow lighter, the caverns falling away, until all that lingers is the faint warmth of steam, the hush of echoes, the weight of stories steeped in porcelain. You walk more slowly now, not from fear, but from the odd reluctance of leaving something that has touched you deeply, even if only in whispers. The dragon's lessons, the haunted vessels, the silent tea parties, they soften in your mind like ripples fading on water. They are still there, but gentler now, folded neatly like old linens in a chest, waiting to be reopened only when you are ready. The path smooths, the air cools, and the noises of the world above begin to return in hushed fragments. Wind against stone, the hush of night air, the steady rhythm of your own breath. They are grounding sounds, familiar, carrying you back into the calm of the ordinary. And as the last hint of warmth fades from your chest, it is replaced by something quieter still, a sense of knowing. Not grand, not heavy, just a soft thread that hums in time with your heartbeat, reminding you that not every treasure glitters and not every story ends in fire. So let yourself breathe here. Let your shoulders ease, let your jaw loosen, and let your mind settle into that calm rhythm. The porcelain is safe where it lies, guarded by dragons, remembered by whispers. And you are safe here, drifting, half dreaming, with the quiet comfort of knowing that some mysteries are not meant to burn bright, but to simmer softly like tea left to steep. Good night, traveler. Sleep gently, and may the echoes fade into dreams.